Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Collegiate Star League. My name is Chesmus. I am joined by Gorgon the Wonder Cow. How you doing, Gorgon?
I'm doing very well. It's nice to be here.
Good to hear, and thank you all for joining us. Hope you've been enjoying the open qualifiers over the past few days. However, it's time to get some collegiate action. We have some Texas teams facing off in a Tuesday brawl. UT San Antonio versus UT Austin. And, oh dear, Dota's not being captured. Let's get that up and running. Dota. Apologies for that stream. There we go. That should do it.
10 seconds remaining.
Alrighty, Gorgon. How you been?
5 seconds remaining.
Gorgon, you there, my man? Oh, mic issues. Regardless, it's great to have you all back at the Collegiate Star League. Already, these Texas teams have had fairly good starts to the year. UT Austin is undefeated, last week picking up a pretty decisive 2-0 win against their opponents. University Texas San Antonio, on the other hand, is coming off a 2-1 loss. However, a close-fought loss, and all in all, looking to be some pretty good Dota action today.
That's a really interesting Elder Titan pickup with the Omni Knight. There's not a lot of setup for the Elder Titan stomp so far in Roadrunner Gaming.
That's very true. Very unorthodox set of supports to pick up, and regardless, first phase at that, you know, it's leaving a little bit of vulnerabilities in regard to lockdown here on the side of UC San Antonio.
Yeah, there's just a lack of synergy there, right? Like Drow Ranger, Vengeful Spirit, you pick those two up, there's an immense amount of synergy. You have a great swap ability to be able to keep Drow Ranger out of trouble, or pull somebody into a range where they can then be gusted. You obviously have the synergy of the damage ores that stack on top of each other for the mid game, particularly, and you have a stun to hold somebody in place or get Drow Ranger out of trouble, because Drow is very squishy if you can close the gap. But between Omni Knight and Elder Titan as two picks, I'm having difficulty imagining the draft that creates synergy between those two picks. That's not to say that they don't necessarily go well together, but it is to say that once you've picked one of those, it's very unlikely that the other one gets banned.
I would agree with that assessment, because it's just, you're relying on cores for some lockdown here, and Elder Titan Stomp is a great disable. However, if you're relying on the Omni Knight slow to get you there, you're probably going to have a rough time. So it's going to be the job of the cores for UT San Antonio to really pick up the lack of disables so far.
Yeah, the other aspect of that is that a lot of cores that are pretty popular right now don't have a lot in way of control. Like Kunkka maybe comes out as an offlaner or a mid here. It's sort of a reversal on the trend that brought him in as support. Slardar,
that's one way.
Probably going to be an offlaner, but we don't really see him in that capacity very much anymore. And now you're running into the trouble where you have 3 strength heroes, which means that your HP pool is going to be really susceptible to negative armor, which comes out from both Weaver and Vengeful Spirit.
10 seconds remaining.
Absolutely. And minus armor indeed is the name of the game here from Team Texas, and it's these towers will be falling, and they will be doing quite a bit of damage, and Undying on top of it all.
Just a very smart pick, right? They see 3 strength heroes, and they know, I mean, Undying saps strength away from people. Not only are you sapping away their survivability and their HP, but you're also sapping away their damage at this point. Roadrunner Gaming, they don't necessarily seem to have a lot of setup for each other. They certainly don't seem to have any sort of ability to control lanes early on either. Team Texas, I think, are getting a pretty solid draft advantage so far.
I would agree here, and having a Weaver alongside the Drow must feel great, and especially in the laning phase. Just, I can't imagine a very good time in the lane for Roadrunner Gaming so far. Slardar against Drow is just a miserable time, and throw Undying into the mix, he's going to get nothing from that. So it's maybe with the Omni Knight with him, but even then, that feels like a waste of resources.
Yeah, you put the Omni Knight there, I'm not sure that you're really going to be able to keep the Slardar in tow anyway. I mean, you might keep him alive, but he's not going to be getting a whole lot, so he's probably going to Iron Talon in the off-lane jungle. But the issue with that is that right now the only initiation and setup that Roadrunner Gaming have is going to be that Slardar, which means he needs a Blink Dagger before they can really get active. If he needs a Blink Dagger before they can get active, and he's going to try to do that through Iron Talon jungling, by the time they get there, Texas is going to have, you know, the Undying where he needs to be. The Weaver is going to be most of the way to Lincoln's, and Drow Ranger Vengeful Spirit are going to be ready to push towers.
I'm taking a look at their drafts from last week, and they did not pick up any
10
Omni
seconds
Knight,
remaining.
and the Elder Titan only once. So I'm curious that they'll go for it first phase here this time around.
Maybe this is something that they've been practicing.
True.
It's very difficult to call who's going to win the game at this level of play based on draft alone. But the
10
flip
seconds
side of
remaining.
that is that you have far
5
more
seconds
often
remaining.
just obvious disparities in draft cohesion between two teams. Like at the
Reserve
professional
time.
level, usually drafts, at least at this stage in the game's development, are pretty even. It's
Mhm.
pretty rare to see one team just get completely outdrafted. But Roadrunner Gaming now picking up the Mirana once again. That's an
Dire King's
unreliable
turn to
stun. So far, they have 0 reliable disables. They have no slows. So they really don't have a way to hold on to this Drow Ranger once they start to engage, especially with the Vengeful Spirit. They're able to swap her out.
10 seconds
I mean,
remaining.
I think you're slightly overlooking Omni slow, but I jest.
5 seconds remaining.
Yeah, it's just Roadrunner Gaming so far seemed to draft
Reserve
themselves
time.
into a bit of a corner. Still lacking some good damage with lockdowns, and Sven potentially. Then you're running 4 melee, and it's just not going to be a fun time once Drow gets ahead. But
Yeah, I mean, the Omni slow is a point, right? Like, I guess when they get Omni Knight up to level 13, 14, they'll have the slow to be able to catch on to Drow Ranger potentially. But, you know, it's very rare to see Omni Knight max that slow unless he's doing a
Radiant King's
very,
turn to
very
play.
uncommon sort of core build. Spectre going to come out here. Roadrunner Gaming. So,
yeah.
if this Mirana's really good with Sacred Arrows, they have the mid game just locked in, right? But if the Mirana's not amazing with Sacred Arrows, they have no way to initiate. And the Spectre is going to need a lot of space in order to get farm. And with Weaver, Venge, and Drow sieging onto towers, I don't think that space is going to be very easy to find.
I would agree with you there. This is just such a slippery lineup for UT Austin. It's going to be a nightmare for this Elder Titan to get any kind of lockdown to speak of, right? So, I
To
would
be fair,
Mhm.
our Radiant side team is very squishy. So if anybody does get caught, they will pretty much die. You know, unless they're off to an amazing, amazing, amazing start.
Prepare for battle.
Let's see. Oh, there we go. All right. Slight client issues, but we are in game. Gorgon, why don't you break down University of Texas for us?
Oh, right here for University of Texas, we've got 7 chilling out on the Drow Ranger. Maximo is walking dead on the Undying. Purify is bugging out on the Weaver. Kieru Sonia is blinking about on the Puck. And Cross Angel 9 is throwing out the Terror on Vengeful Spirit.
And on the side of UT San Antonio, we have Masai Dunbear on, Dumb Bear, rather, on the Slardar. Elder Titan, we have ASDFS, Creative. None on the Murano. Voldemort on the Spectre. And finally, AVC, rounding it out, on the Omni Knights.
30 seconds.
Yeah,
to
so
battle.
it's interesting because the Weaver Shikuchi'd out very early to try and get out, presumably, and I thought drop a ward. He doesn't have a ward on him, though. Did he already drop it? I don't see it. It didn't get counter-warded, right? So he just went out there very, very early for no apparent reason. Yeah, he doesn't have a ward because the Drow had one. Interesting. Drow is dropping items.
Demonstrating
to try
her
and bring the
wares.
Slardar in.
Battle starting.
Kind of ballsy with the entire team top lane, and Murano will pick up the bounty rune after all. I'm getting slight lag here on my end.
I'm
Hopefully.
also getting that. That is not just you.
Okay. Hopefully that sorts itself out. First blood actually going the way of the Puck, eating way too much damage. Drow or a level 1 doing a
Right?
good chunk of damage. Holy moly.
That's an amazing amount of damage, and moreover, there's just way more mobility with the Weaver on this side, right? So yeah, RG were able to engage into the rune, but they're not really able to control these fights even now. I don't think that gets better as time goes by. Like this Drow on Slardar matchup is so favorable for the Drow that she's able to sit down here with 0 supports.
Yeah, it's this lane's just a nightmare for the Slardar. And yes, he will get more out of this lane than with the supports there, but now this Weaver is just gonna have a time of his life up here.
Yeah, excuse me. So the one maybe advantage for RRG here is going to be that the Weaver is an experience dependent and not just a farm dependent hero. Running him in an aggressive tri lane means you really absolutely need to be getting kills. For the Weaver to be sitting up here and just farming well is not enough. However, RG is succumbing to that threat and actually going to have both of their supports up here as well, which is probably just going to compound the issue, force the lane to push out a little bit farther, and keep the Spectre out of safety of the tower.
Yeah, the longer the Weaver goes without those levels, it's the easier he is to kill, right? The time lapse is such a great ability, and more levels than Shukuchi is more time spent alive, but ooh, a cheeky Sentry Ward gets placed in the meantime, so that will set up some potential kills, although Elder Titan is in a heap of trouble already.
He should be able to get away with that stomp, but oh man, Undying getting a huge grab there though. But yeah, another thing that you kind of danced around, but is maybe worth saying explicitly, is that levels are really important for Weaver because Weaver does not build intelligence items at all. Like you get the orb that gives you some stats if you go that way, but it looks like this Weaver may just go straight into a Desolator if the game goes well, so that they can push that much faster. Either way. Weaver does not have a very big base mana pool, but his int gain is not bad for an agility hero. Like 1.8 is pretty solid for an agi hero, and getting up those level 11, level 12 gives him actually the mana to cast out the bugs, a couple of Shukuchis, and still be able to use the time lapse.
Well, he just evaded a huge chunk of damage there. Omni was in a great position to get the purification off. Good stop though. We'll slow him down for now. Tombstone in the meantime will die. That's a pretty hefty bounty going the way of the Spectre, but decay is just huge. And Slardar's moving his way up here already. The Elder Titan just dies, but so does Weaver. Very odd trade there in the top lane.
Weaver's, I mean, I think if I'm that Weaver, I'm pretty happy making that trade. Maybe not if the Undying dies as well.
No bashes. That's unfortunate.
Well, he doesn't have it scaled yet. He's only level 4. And because he's, this Weaver's going to get another kill as well, so. And that's a mango use.
Already.
He used the mango to try and purify, but he couldn't quite get it off fast enough, so that's another little chunk of gold that costs the Omni as well. And this whole time, the Drow is free farming down bottom, now sitting at 24 last hits and having a field day. Things are going absolutely great for you.
21 damage on this Weaver with minus armor up already. He hits hard. He hits very, very hard.
And the Vengeance is still only sitting at level 3, so imagine when that Vengeance Sword gets up to 28%. You know, I would assume when the Vengeful Spirit is sitting at level 8, these towers are going to be absolutely just torn asunder. And look at this Elder Titan too. Like, another issue is that this is not a high armor team because they are a high strength team. So most of these heroes coming from RRG just do not have the ability to withstand damage, physical damage at this stage in the game. What you see is really what you get, especially the Elder Titan.
I am getting extreme stream lag, so I'm going to shut it down and reboot it real quick. And
while you're rebooting, we're going to go ahead and see the Weaver try to dive in, throwing out the bugs, diving in a little bit too far and just kind of going down to right click, so it's inarguably over-aggressive. A nice pickup here for the Dire side, who are not out of it, and the Spectre has now rotated